We are live. We are live.
Hello.
We are live. Hello. This
Hello.
is another week of our Astro Forecasts for the week ahead. So you can see in the title it says Astro Forecast week of 6/21. So it is the week of 6/21. So we're looking into the
That's
future at what the planets have in store for us for the week ahead. I apologize as I have a little person hitting the desk. So I will likely mute myself at times so that Sarah, you can be really loud and strong with the Astro Forecast, and unmute myself when needed. But I just want to welcome everybody for being here, and we will try to keep this Astro Forecast a little bit less time, just because Expedition to Soul Day 7 is today, and there is a live feed at noon, which it is in an hour from now. So I want everybody who's in Expedition to Soul can get over there for day 7. So off we go again. I'm Anna with the Sisters
Enchanted. To the point today.
Yeah, and Sarah Milne here is one of our co-teachers in Expedition Astrology and also a team member here at the Sisters Enchanted. And here is your week ahead Astro Forecast.
Yeah, I was just saying we were just chatting at the beginning, saying this energy is really like been a big week. It's been a big week. There's been a lot of energy, and some of it's going to carry on, I'm afraid. But let's start with the Sun trine Jupiter, because we talked about this last week, because it sort of starts at this weekend. It starts at the end of this week, but we're taking it into next week. And we've got the summer solstice with Sun trine Jupiter. So we've got that lovely day where we have the longest day of sun. And the Sun is trine Jupiter, which is one of the best aspects. And it's like, it will make us all happy, enthusiastic, full of self-confidence. And because it's that kind of like, it's that luck, Jupiter bringing that luck into our center of ourselves and our ego. But like we said last week, Jupiter's luck is because it shows us where opportunities are. So luck doesn't just land on your lap. It's not like, oh, I'm going to go out on Monday morning and I'm just going to like have well, you might, because I had this happen to me the other day, an email saying I've got tax due back, a tax rebate. You might, but it's more like there's opportunities around at this time right now, this coming on from this weekend and into next week. And if you don't, stay open, so keep your mind open for those opportunities, because they will bring they'll bring good fortune and good abundance in lots of different ways, but you need to take them. And certainly they can very much feed into your personal and spiritual growth. But I just thought I'd mention that again, even though we did mention that last week, because it goes into next week. But it's because I thought with it being summer solstice and Sun trine Jupiter, that's just a really lovely day. It's just a really nice astrological day there. And like festivals, and so think about how you're going to like celebrate summer solstice and work with that energy, particularly like bearing in mind that it is trine Jupiter, which, and if you're new here, I'll explain that trine means that those planets are working really well, their energy is flowing really well together. So that kind of like Jupiter's abundance, and Jupiter expands everything. So it's going to expand your sense of self and your self creativity and your confidence, and also bring some of those opportunities right to the center of yourself. So Anna, do you want to add anything to that?
I'm hoping for Monday to be like what you said, a day that's happy, enthusiastic, full of good fortune when we're able to receive it and willing and looking to receive it. I'm excited for it because I think we all need a day of possible good fortune and self-confidence.
Absolutely. Hey, maybe we're both going to finalise on our houses. Anna and I've been talking about our house situations all this time, and now we seem to be at the same spot in it, but with the same little kind of like, but we're there, so nearly there. But so maybe Monday will be the day, Anna.
Maybe it'll be the day. Fingers crossed, it'll be the day.
Or maybe Tuesday, because Mercury goes direct, and that'll be a better day for signing contracts.
Yeah.
So Mercury goes direct on Tuesday too. So that's gonna like, well, I would say, yeah, it is a week where we're gonna like have some of this fogginess reduced actually, and I'll come back to why as well. But yeah, Mercury goes direct on Tuesday, so all this kind of like, it's been a real tech. Have you found this Mercury retrograde has been such a hit on tech? It's been a nightmare. I've never known a Mercury retrograde hit tech so hard. I've had I couldn't even go, like in Expedition Astrology, like a couple of weeks ago, we couldn't even get the live to work. We had to try another day, and we still couldn't get the live. I had one day and I'm sitting in here just talking to myself, and it wasn't being broadcast. And then we had it stop, had to go over to Zoom. So many tech problems. It's just crazy.
Right. We had a day too that all of like the emails stopped working. Like so many things have stopped working, and it's been like one thing after another thing after another thing. It's been crazy.
I found that more than kind of like, I found this Mercury retrograde has been more that for me. It hasn't been, I haven't felt so much issues in my life and in communication in my life, and it's just been that tech things just not working the way they should. And certainly hiccups on house contracts when you're told that it's about to exchange and we were meant to exchange yesterday, finalise yesterday, and then like little hiccups. It's that Mercury retrograde hiccup. So that ends on Tuesday, but then of course when Mercury first goes direct, you still have the shadows of retrograde. So you still might have a little bit of retrograde fuzziness, but it goes direct on Tuesday, which is great.
Yes.
So Venus on we also have this week of Venus trine Neptune. Neptune is also, when we talk about Mercury's going direct, we have Neptune going in retrograde as well. So we have another retrograde, which I'll talk about in a minute. But Venus is trine Neptune until Wednesday. So that's before Venus goes retrograde. And this is going to be, again, your relationships and your creative expression. Again, we talked about this already. This was something we talked about last week. That sort of romantic daydreaming and great for creative projects, really good for creativity. That kind of snuggly romance and connection with spirituality. So that is still carrying forward with us into this week until Wednesday. And I wanted to bring that up again because it's quite important. And I feel that that's really kind of, a lot of people are experiencing that very much at the minute. That kind of like connection with spirituality, and particularly because you might be here joining us for the first time because you've been on Expedition to Soul. If so, welcome, and it's so great to have you here. That's why I wanted to mention this Venus trine Neptune again this week, because it's a really good time for connection with spirituality. So those of you who've done Expedition to Soul, it's coming to the end, and into next week, it just continue with all that really good stuff. And if you are a little bit behind, I know people always think, oh, I haven't quite finished. That's so fine and so good, because we've still got this wonderful energy, which is just perfect for Expedition to Soul, this Venus trine Neptune. We always talk about Venus being Aphrodite and love, and we all think about romances, but it's the things we desire, and Neptune is our imagination and our kind of like connection with things spiritual. So it brings that into the things that we desire, and it's just super creative. I think that's really shown, don't you, Anna? Because some of the maps and things we've seen in Expedition to Soul, and some of the creativity, like I was looking last night, looking at the things that everyone's made, and it's just like, I can really see that Neptune in that group this week. So.
It has for sure been a crafty Expedition to Soul. I've seen lots of really great maps. I've seen lots of really great crafts, and just a lot of things. There's a lot of creative things happening. You know, I used to be somebody who like painted a lot, and I haven't really done it recently, but you know, as you know, I've made some stories this week, and that was creative too in a way that I haven't been. This is why I'm on mute, because Riker's babbling to himself.
Absolutely, he's so cute. But yeah, so I think that we've seen so much of this creativity, and in holistic witchery as well, people have been making their runes and all these kind of things. So, and I've seen Expedition in Enchanted Journey. It's just so much creativity, and I think particularly bringing that creativity and spirituality has been fantastic, and we're going to see that continue into this week. So that ends on Wednesday, and then on Wednesday, then Venus also goes opposite Pluto until Friday. That's quite interesting, because that's going to bring pressure. That's kind of like, we've got this nice Venus Neptune, but Venus opposite Pluto, that's where they're two in opposition, so they're kind of pulling on each other like a tug of war. They kind of want to have their energies kind of like harmonized, but they're tugging against each other. So that can bring some like pressure in relationships, really. Particularly with Pluto, we might see where there's power issues, like if you feel like things are unfair, one-sided, or if somebody's using, like, Pluto energy in relationships can be very much where people use relationships to gain their power, and obsessions and compulsions, those kind of things within relationships may come to the consciousness a little bit during that period of time. Also overpowering feelings, like that real intensity of intense love, which can be really good for you or maybe not so good for you. So just be aware some of those things might come to play. And again, as we always say in these broadcasts, often when you read, like in magazines, when you read your horoscopes, it's all people might do this to you this week, people will do this to you this week, so watch out for it. But who's doing it then if we're all being told it's going to be done to us? So we talk a lot in shadow work, and I'm sure we're going to talk about shadow work a little bit at the end of this chat as well. This is a really good week for shadow work, and I'm sure we'll come back to this. We're going to have our shadow work seminars this week, our shadow work webinars, and this is really good energy for shadow work, because we all do these things. We all take power in relationships in some way. It doesn't have to be some huge big thing that you'd read about in a novel. It's like we all do it. We all kind of have that power imbalance, and we all have compulsions, we all have obsessions, and we all have these things where we're taking power from other people in our relationships. So this is really good energy for shadow work. It's not just kind of looking to see what are other people doing to me and how am I going to handle it. It's what are we doing ourselves as well. So I think that this is till Friday, and that's when we're going to be having these webinars. It's a really, really good energy for that shadow work for sure.
Yeah, it seems like it would be a really good time too with the Venus opposition Pluto to really see, like, because we talk about Venus being desire sometimes and things that you want, and Pluto, is very desiring of things. And this might be a really good time that, because it's in opposition, it might make it a little bit clear to you where because they're not going to just fall into each other, like the Aphrodite, because it's in opposition, like Venus desire and the desire for deep things that Pluto has with it, because they're in opposition, it might be clear to you sometimes that you maybe desire things for the wrong reasons. That's why it's such a good time for shadow work, because you might be able to, you'll be frustrated because they're not working together, because you're not getting something that you desire. And when you're frustrated, you might have more time to sit back and think about it and be like, well, why do I really want this? Is it something that I want because I really desire it on a heartfelt level, or do I desire it on a very Plutonian, like not as healthy subconscious desire? So it's a really good time for that, for sure.
Absolutely. That's so true. That's brilliant. I love that. And then we have Neptune retrograde, which is quite interesting. And actually we have also Jupiter is retrograde during this week. Jupiter goes retrograde on this Sunday. So we have Jupiter in retrograde and Neptune in retrograde. And Neptune retrograde is up until December 2nd. And what is so interesting about Neptune retrograde is that Neptune retrograde actually makes things clearer. Like we talk about retrogrades making things foggy and a little bit but Neptune retrograde is the opposite, because Neptune is foggy energy. Neptune is that kind of that hazy imagination. So when Neptune's in retrograde, so you can kind of see past illusions, and you can get some real reality checks, like, hang on, that's an illusion, or like this kind of roses right here. So and so because Pisces is Neptune has really hazy, like real kind of activity. So where Pisces is in your chart, you might get a bit of a kind of like I see, and that's really good. Some of that fogginess can lift, and that's around the second.
I know, Sarah, you're cutting out a little bit on my side, Sarah. So I'm just going to recap a little bit what you just said in case anybody else had you cut out a little bit. Sure. That we were talking about retrogrades and how retrogrades usually kind of throw you for a loop, but Neptune's always kind of throwing you for a loop. And when Neptune's in retrograde, instead of being kind of, chaos, fog, it becomes a little bit more clear. And Sarah was just saying that you can look in for Pisces in your chart and see where maybe sometimes you are a little bit lost in things, right, Sarah? That you might have a little bit more a grasp on reality now than you normally would.
Yes. Yeah, there might be some illusion. Some illusion might lift for you, which is quite interesting. So we have like. I was finding that Neptune retrograde really interesting, but I think like anything else in retrograde, although it kind of can lift the fogginess, it still has that kind of look at things in a different way. Like, how can you see things in a different way? So I think you still have that kind of like, if you're escaping from, like, Neptune's all about escape, like we say, that festival energy, that kind of like, I've escaped from reality and I'm here and I'm connecting with everyone around me. I'm connecting with all these people. I'm connecting with, like, you know, in a festival, I love to think you just go and sit down with strangers and just like, hey, I've lost my friends, I'm going to sit with you for a bit. Oh, this band's great. Let me buy you a drink. Oh, look, here, share my food. And then you don't necessarily see them again. It's like in real life, if you had that kind of interaction with someone, you'd probably be like swapping phone numbers or adding in Facebook and carrying on. But in festivals, it just ends there. Like, by then, that was great. And that's Neptune energy, that kind of like where you connect with other people, but then you have to kind of like go back to life, and you can't stay in that Neptune energy forever. But we need that kind of like connection. We need that kind of escape from ourselves and escape from life. And so in Neptune retrograde, it does kind of challenge us a bit to see if there are any ways that we escape from life and from ourselves that maybe isn't so good for us, and maybe we're doing too much in it. People think about things like addictions and that kind of stuff, but anything, even if it is by going to festivals, you can do too much festivaling if you're then not kind of like living in life. You have to come back. So even if your Neptune is imagination, like if you're a daydreamer and you never get anything done, then that's, so all these, it's as we always say, and we can mention shadow work again, there's light and shadow in everything. So I think Neptune retrograde is really interesting because it lifts the fog, but at the same time it challenges you to look at things in a different way with that Neptune energy. And then of course we've got Jupiter in retrograde, so that's kind of very much like opportunities, abundance. It might be like, well, what is abundance to you? Am I being too materialistic in my abundance? Maybe I'm feeling like I don't have abundance, but actually I have, but it's in a very different way. Or these are opportunities that I am not taking, that I, for some reason, I'm not able to take, or maybe because I have blocks in the way of myself, like I don't have enough self-confidence to take that opportunity, or there's something like a relationship that's holding me back that I shouldn't be in, or all these kind of things that are stopping you live with those opportunities. That's kind of very much Jupiter retrograde kind of activity. And again, it's just it's a really good like positive shadow work. It's that real kind of like, as we think about when it's all shadow work is great, but when we talk about Mercury retrograde, we talk about where do I need to think of things in a different way, and where do I need to communicate things in a different way. Whereas this is all like, well, how do I need to look at abundance? How do I need to look at opportunities? What opportunities am I not taking? How am I using my imagination? Am I using my imagination well? Am I daydreaming too much and not getting things done? Am I being creative? There's just so much exciting stuff to think about with these two retrogrades, I feel.
Yeah, I love to, and Auntie Sarah to the rescue. She just came in and swooped in. This doesn't speak to a lot of what you were just saying, but I love how you took a minute to say that Jupiter in abundance, and it doesn't always look the same, because people think of Jupiter, or they think about the word of abundance, and they think like financial abundance, and that's not the end all be all of abundance. Like you can be abundant in so many other things. You can be abundant in love. You can be abundant in opportunities. You can be abundant in just so many other things than material gains. And I think that that's important to think about too, especially when you're in a time where you're like, well, where is my abundance happening? And you're thinking of it in a material sense, to look at where else is your cup running over except, in your wallet, because there's probably somewhere else where you are receiving a lot of abundance that you're not seeing on a surface level.
Absolutely. It's so important. So important.
There's also construction going on again this week, and it sounds like the sky is falling. Like, I'm afraid somebody's gonna like tunnel in through the office ceiling and fall down on me.
It's funny you said the sky's falling, because that makes me think, I don't know if you had it in America, that chicken licking Henny Penny, and she's like, the sky's falling. Because we still have that Saturn square Uranus energy this week. It's the last week of that kind of being kind of in the orb of the direct square. Though, like I said, it's kind of in that energy all this year, and it will square back up again in December. So again, that breaking down, they call it the bone breaker, but it's breaking down some of our kind of structures that we might have created for ourselves. And building new ones. Like Uranus comes and makes us like, and we kind of like feel like we want change, or we see that maybe we should be making changes. And I feel like it's all very connected this week. You've got this well, it's interesting actually, because Neptune goes into retrograde after this direct square, kind of like it moves away a little bit from being direct. So I kind of feel when I was looking at this, I was thinking, well, maybe the way that Uranus has shaken our structures might then feed into Neptune, enabling us to see things in, like lift up some. Maybe that's what it feeds into Neptune having that reality check, because some of the things that have changed may kind of like feed into that. Because remember, we talk about these things individually because it's impossible to have for me to say everything at once. But the only reason we talk about these things individually is because it's the only way we can communicate them. But it's all happening together. All this energy is happening together, so it kind of feeds into each other and interacts with each other. So we still have that kind of like Saturn square Uranus, where Saturn is our structures that we create for ourselves to give us stability, and then Uranus comes in and kind of rebels and goes, no, gone. Which can be really like, whoa, sudden things, but at the same time we can use that energy. That's what's great about knowing astrology. You can use that energy. So if there's some structures that really do need some change, then that's really exciting. And it's going to come again in December because of retrogrades. This although it doesn't even happen every year, this year we have 3 because we've had one already, this next one, and it keeps kind of like moving away again and then just going back because of retrogrades. So again, it's like this cycle. We have a lot of cycles this year that kind of end in December, which is really interesting with the eclipse season and with this Saturn square Uranus kind of succession. And then we've got the Neptune retrograde ends in December as well. So we're able to see things out a bit more clearly through in terms of illusions and so forth, and that dreaminess and that fogginess until December. So I feel like this second half of this year could be really interesting.
We talked about this, I think, the last forecast, about how there's so many things happening towards the end of the year, and even just the second half of this year, and just it being such a kind of transformational time, especially when life has changed so much over the last like year, year and a half, and we're kind of changing again now to acclimating to what like a new normal is during the end of this year, and the fact that that all happens right before the beginning of a new year, which is when a lot of people are trying to change a little bit or reevaluate who they appear to be or what their habits are. So I think it's all very interesting if this is happening like this.
Yes, absolutely. It's fascinating. And then we have Venus goes into Leo on Saturday. We talked about how Venus is about next week, well, the week after next. Sorry, this is the forecast for next week. And at the next forecast for the week after, we'll be talking about this more because Venus and Mars are coming into conjunction in Leo. So then we have this kind of confidence sexiness kind of we've been talking about that's beginning to come together. So Venus in Leo, it brings us closer to that. It's actually the following Wednesday that we get to that conjunction. But this is kind of Leo energy, that kind of confident Leo energy and that creative Leo energy. And Leo loves to have fun. It loves to have people see it in the basking in the sun, and that Mufasa energy, that kind of like looking after its pride and taking pride in what other people do, and just being a really good leader, all that kind of stuff. But it's very confident energy. So I feel like this is really cool. It's a very creative placement for Venus. Like, again, if you're a creative, you've got this like super duper creative, because Venus in Leo, art and creativity could be really, really big this week. But like creativity and love as well. And remember to love includes yourself. So creativity in our way we love ourselves and the way we express that to ourselves, and creativity in anything we desire as well. I feel that's a really nice kind of like energy. Sure.
Yeah, and because it's in Leo, I'm sorry, this construction is so loud. And because it's Leo, a boost in your confidence probably about your creativity, your creative projects, and a boost in confidence about yourself and going into relationships. So it seems like a really good time just to, if you've been having blocks in, your relationships, or being able to put yourself into a relationship, because it is that that kind of thing. Sorry, this is like, can you hear it? It's like sawing right over my head. That you might be able to just be able to be a little bit more confident and shake some of the insecurities you've had when going into some things because it's Leo.
Yeah. So that's it, really. That's the week. Some really mixed energies there. A lot more clarity. We've had a lot of very foggy weeks, and this is bringing us a lot more clarity this week.
I'm excited for some clarity. I'm excited for some things to not be so hard. I know that a lot of people are in that same boat. This last, I think, 3 to 4 weeks of just astrological happenings and moon cycles and things have been really kind of just a little dicey. I think a lot of people have felt that. I've heard a few people who like really thrived, which is normal in astrology because depending on your chart and what's happening, you know, sometimes energy that might be hard for me or for somebody else may not be so hard for you. But it seems like there was like a collective kind of weight this last kind of month, and I'm ready to see that kind of turn around.
Absolutely, and I think it will. I think so. Absolutely.
I'm ready. So with that, I did want to keep this Astro Forecast a little bit on the short side because today is day 7 of Expedition to Soul, and that live feed is in a half an hour right here in the same place you are now in the Expedition to Soul group, but also live here in Facebook on our regular page. And it's day 7 where we are closing out our 7-day quest. So take a break, have a cup of coffee, have a snack, come back and get ready for the closeout of Expedition to Soul day 7. And I know that the link's been posted a couple times, and that's for our What is Shadow Work and How to Do It webinar, which, like I said, I see Jessica in the comments saying, Daisy, yes, Daisy works, an emotional roller coaster. Yes, these last few weeks have been hard. If you are feeling a little bit down, you are feeling a little bit blocked, unsure of what to do next, you know, What is Shadow Work and How to Do It is a great place to start. You will learn how to identify that you need shadow work, be able to plan how to do your own shadow work in a way that works well for you. And if you've been there before, sign up again, because I've been to every webinar and I learn something new every time. So get that link. And if none of those times work for you, sign up anyway, because then you're guaranteed that a replay will be sent to you. Yeah. And that's some good stuff.
It's such good energy for shadow work this week. So it really is perfect timing for it.
Yes, I think so too. And especially with the summer solstice and stuff coming up, having that time to be bright and energetic and things like that, to really have a good handle on shadow work and being able to check yourself in the moment so that it doesn't start to weigh in on you, especially when it's starting to, depending on what part of the world you're in, it's starting to get warm and you want to be out and about and free. So what is shadow work and how to do it? Sign up. We'll see you there. It's super exciting. And we will see you in about half an hour for day 7 of Expedition to Soul. Thanks so much, Sarah.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.